I'm Liz Holpin from Pinhole Quilting, and I'm going to go through with you some of the important things that you'll need to know when you first get your machine. I'm going to cover how you start to stitch, how you do your tie-off stitches after you've pulled up the bobbin thread. Do some test stitching, some examples of what we use to do test stitching to make sure we've got that really perfect balance between the top and the bobbin thread. Then how you do your tie-off stitches so that the stitches don't come undone. And to be honest, how many times have you done stitching and then needed to reverse sew and found that they're really, really well embedded? So actually just a few stitches at the end, 2 or 3, and then bringing up the bobbin thread and either tying in or cutting off if you're just using a utility quilt will be really good. It's up to you really. It depends partly also on the weight of the thread and whether it's a cotton or polyester, whether those stitches will hold. So that's just as a general rule. The Pfaff Powerquilter is a 16-inch long arm, but it's a stationary machine. So by stationary we mean that we're not moving the machine around, we're moving the quilt. So let's go through some of those basic things. On our screen, we can either set the needle to stop in the up or the down position. I normally set so that it's set in the down position. That means that it doesn't pull on the thread and I don't end up with a long bit of thread at any point if I should happen to stop partway through my sewing. I definitely use needle down when I'm doing ruler work. I also can do needle up, needle down half step. So if it's up, it goes down, and if it's down, it goes up. If I do that with the top thread and I'm holding onto the thread, I can bring up my bobbin thread really easily that way. So just needle down, needle up, and bring up your bobbin thread. Holding the needle down, needle up button, I can do 2 or 3 stitches to secure it. Then I'm ready to do my sewing. Today I'm using what I call the Handy Quilter sweet spots. The sweet spots have a surface, it's a bit like a sort of velvety, I don't even know what it's called, but anyway, it's really soft, but it grabs the fabric. And what I find is that when I'm using gloves, I'm having to take them on and off, and it just feels like I'm not as flexible in terms of, or free to do as many things as I want when I've got the gloves on, so I'm taking them on and off. We sell the gloves, but actually after all the years that I've been quilting and I've tried practically everything, I find that these are the best for me. One of the reasons that they're really good is that you can rest your hands on them instead of having to grab them, so your arms aren't tense, so you don't end up with a shoulder ache. So let's do some stitching. When you're testing the tension, it's really important to do the kind of tests that will tell you whether the bobbin thread and the top thread are going to balance and meet in the middle. So there's 2 things that I do. I do a loop one way and the other way, and I do sharp points. So I go up and back, up and back, up and back. So by doing that, I can tell whether the bobbin thread is going to come up to the top fabric, and if it is, it means that my top thread is too tight. It's pulling the bobbin thread up. I can also check the back stitches, and what I don't want to see, I don't want to see any of the green. I've done a deliberately quite contrasting thread. I don't want to see any of the green on my back, and I can't. I'm using quite a dark thread, so the chances of my seeing it are much less anyway, but I feel like I can see a little bit too much of the bobbin thread at the moment, just a fraction. On this knob here, which is my top tension, I'm just going to reduce that by a 1/4 turn, and then I'm going to just try it again. If I can see the top thread on the back, then I've gone too far, but I can hardly see any. There's like one little dot, but that's going to relax when I take this quilt off here, so I'm really good with the tension. If I just make it go wrong on the next exercise, then you can compare it. But for now, what I want to do is show you how to finish. A neat finish will involve doing a few stitches very close together, either back along the stitches you've just sewn, or micro stitches in the direction beyond where you've just sewn. So I've done 3 stitches there. Now I'm going to pull a loop off the cone. So I've got a big loop of thread here, and then I'm going to move the fabric away and take up the slack. This time with my left hand, so I'm holding the slack of the thread in my left hand. I'm moving the needle to back over where I exited with the last stitch. And I'm going to do one final needle down, needle up, and as I move away, there's my bobbin thread. It's come up to the top. I can either leave it long and cut my stitch off at the where it's folded over, and I can sew it in using my favourite method for hiding my quilting stitches, or I can just cut that level and it's a neat finish. None of my threads are on the back of the work, and as you can see, that's a nice neat finish to the threads, both on the top and on the bottom.